Ladies and gentlemen, mesdames et messieurs, good morning, bonjour, bienvenue and welcome to the second day of the Enhanced Integrated Framework Forum on Inclusive Trade. I'm delighted to see you all here again today, especially as this session, I think, is for me, the most exciting of the day, the 2 days, which is our Dragon's Den session. First of all, let me introduce you to Annette Ssemuwemba, who is the Deputy Executive Director of the Enhanced Integrated Framework, and the two of us are going to be co-hosting this session today. But before we start, a couple of quick points for you all. Please remember that all sound is transmitted through your headsets, through your earpieces. I can shout, but I don't want to. We have full translation in English and French, and we are working on social media on 2 hashtags today, the EIF Global Forum 2018 and hashtag Inclusive Trade for LDCs. Those hashtags are available on the cards on the desks in front of you. We got 2 million impressions yesterday, 6 million impressions, 2 million by lunch, 6 million, maybe more than that. But the most important thing was that we were trending above hashtag World Cup in Switzerland. So no pressure, but we hope we can do better today. So now on to our first session. And this is our Dragon's Den session, which is looking at bright ideas for inclusive trade in LDCs. Now, first of all, can I have a quick show of hands? Has anybody heard of the Dragon's Den? Okay, some of you had. Or I think it's called the Shark Tank in the US. Yeah, only the Americans, sorry. Well, for those of you who don't know, this is a very simple concept where entrepreneurs come onto this. Oh, actually, this is for you to do now. So I'm taking your lines, Annette. I'm taking your lines. They're going to pitch 3 business ideas to dragons who have lots of money, and we'll be asking them to invest.
Okay, so our judges, who we will also refer to as the dragons, will listen to the brilliant ideas, ask some tough questions, and decide whether to invest or not into the business. And we thought we should apply this idea to the competitive environment in international business, and asked 3 interesting ladies from LDCs to present to 4 global dragons. So we'll see who comes out first. I think it's going to be a really exciting session. And please do listen carefully, as we hope that the audience at the end will help the judges take decisions on where the investments should be placed.
Of course, they won't actually be earning any money today, unless some of you in the audience are feeling really generous, in which case they're all available at coffee afterwards. So we're taking the concept and we're seeing if we can, seeing where we can go with it. So let me start by welcoming our dragons to the stage. So we have Ambassador Andrew Staines, who's the Deputy Permanent Representative from the Permanent Mission of the United Kingdom to the United Nations Office. Andrew. Only the men did that. We have Heather Ducharme, who's the Sustainable Development Manager from the Body Shop. Can they take the stairs? Kerstin Cissé, the head of the Global Economy Unit in the Swiss International Development Agency. Thank you. And Axel Pougin de la Maisonneuve, the Deputy Head of the Private Sector and Trade Units at the European Commission's Directorate General for Cooperation, DG DEVCO. Thank you all. I'm going to come and sit down with you, and I'll leave it to you, Annette, to introduce our first entrepreneur.
Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, allow me to introduce our first entrepreneur, a dynamic, vibrant lady all the way from Samoa, Alberta Vitali. And as she comes to the podium, Alberta is the Associate Director for Women in Business Development, WIBD, and WIBD works for village economies, taking indigenous traditional products and transforming them for market. So, welcome, Alberta. Mention that you have some products that are passed on.
Yes, I'll mention it here and then you can. Okay. All right. Thank you, Annette, for the introduction. Talofa lava and good morning. Just a bit about myself. I've worked for Women in Business Development Incorporated, or WIBD, since 2010. And that's 8 years of experience at this very organization that taught me so much values, knowledge, through its community work and affiliation with local and international partners. I would like to present to our panel a selection of organic products that my organization and farmer members produced and hand-packaged in Samoa. Enjoy. Women in Business Development Incorporated, or WIBD, strengthens village economies by working with farming and artisan families in 183 villages across Samoa. WIBD develop income opportunities for families and grow businesses that maximize farm-based resources using traditional and new knowledge. A major aspect of WIBD's work involves organic certification of farm products for export to renowned international brands like The Body Shop, and supplying New Zealand-based companies Ethique, All Good Organics, and C1 Espresso. These engagements place more than 600,000 tala in the hands of rural families. WIBD's aim is to add value and offer farmers the opportunity to earn more income by being involved in more steps along the value chain. Through farmers' income earned, more children go to schools, families improve their standard of living, and there's less reliance on remittances from families overseas. WIBD believes that sustainable change occurs slowly and requires a long-term commitment. The EIF-funded processing facility and vehicle have contributed to my organization's commitment in processing high-value agricultural products and delivering them to niche local and export markets. The word map I have on the screen was extracted from the Body Shop's website that identifies suppliers of their community trade or sustainable sourcing program, where Samoa is the sole supplier of cold-pressed organic virgin coconut oil. The main problem that I wish to bring to your attention is the isolation of Samoa from countries and major markets in the world, and you don't see its name on the map. This problem, I believe, highlights a market opportunity. Why? Through the work of WIBD, we managed to attract and secured an ethical trade partnership with The Body Shop. The coconut oil we supply can be easily sourced from closer countries to the UK, but The Body Shop has a commitment to Samoa and its smallholder farmers to improve economically vulnerable communities through this engagement. Our partnership with The Body Shop has also contributed to more ethical companies approaching WIBD to supply them with coconut oil and other value-added products from Samoa, providing the quality assurance and uniqueness of our products, accessing world markets. Women in Business works with like-minded business partners that value organic and ethical trade practices. These trade partners understand the potential as well as the limitations of small-scale farming in Samoa. The demand for coconut products has increased considerably in the past few years, and we see a window of opportunity for new trade relations in markets that are opening up, and that highlights a market prospect for us to service them. Our idea of a business model focuses on product diversification. This model will increase contracts with local and international companies by diversifying into other range of new developed coconut products. We will also be able to increase production that will lead to increased job opportunities for unemployed youth and vulnerable families. The main bottleneck we experience is scaling up production of virgin coconut oil produced on individual family farms providing the cost associated in setting up simple production plants. But if you were to invest $50,000, the support will enable women in business to set up new processing facilities on farms, increasing production capacity, train and offer job opportunities to 60 workers who will increase the supply of organic certified coconut oil. The investment will also provide the opportunity to service new markets and enabling WIPD to create and provide powerful marketing awareness and campaigns. I now would like to conclude my pitch with this photo and a summary of my organization's core activities in Samoa. Women in Business provide support to 796 organically certified growers. We train unemployed youth in organic farm practices. We identify and develop smallholder farmers. We continue to increase Samoa's export of high-value products. We promote and encourage ethical trade partnerships, develop sources of income and self-reliance, promote sustainable change and economic development. We build farm capacity and resilience, facilitate trade and global regional partners, and we empower families and communities. Thank you.
Thank you, Alberta, for that fantastic presentation. And I don't know if our dragons can all hold up these beautiful products, but they are lovely. There's lots of different products that they produce, and they smell good too. So, Alberta, you're asking for $50,000 to increase capacity, to enable you to service new markets, and to have marketing campaigns that will enable you to get to a greater set of potential suppliers. Let me start with you, Andrew. What are your thoughts and reflections on this and your comment question for Alberta?
Well, thanks, Sarah. Thanks, Alberta, for the presentation. Good morning, everyone. I think one of the lessons from the Dragon's Den over the years is that one of the great reasons to start a business is because the customers are demanding it. And that's something I really see through your presentation and through your fantastic products today. You know, there's a real market for this out there, sort of, you know, as the map showed around the world, really. Another point I think was deeply appreciated was on the Den, they always say entrepreneurs need to know your numbers. And I think the 50,000 investment, I think you said, created 60 new jobs, so 60 new long-term jobs, which was also one that was a very impressive statistic for me. Turning to my question, now, one of the challenges that we know lots of businesses face is around standards, around how do you meet the standards of demanded by governments, demanded by your purchasers, the companies that are buying your products. How do you ensure that the quality of the product is consistent over time? Because again, as businesses look for supply, they look for quality, for consistency. So I'd be interested in how you approach sort of standards, both the official standards, but also how do you ensure continuity of your products? Thanks.
Thank you. As I mentioned, Women in Business facilitates the organic certification. So that covers a lot of quality assurance and standards. So in saying that, we are certified to USDA NOP. So we can export to the US, we can export to the EU, as well as to New Zealand and Australia. So overall, the standards that we cover across board meets the quality assurance of the organic certification.
That's great, thank you. Now over to you, Kerstin. Sida has got a long history of development and community development programs, so I'm sure this kind of project would be of great interest to your organisation. What are your reflections and questions?
Thank you, Sarah, and thank you, Alberta. Very interesting to hear about your business and see your products and have them in physically in your hand. It's very useful. I was wondering, we were talking about you mentioned your major challenges being distance and having a market, but I would like to hear more about how you have been able to include women in your program. We know that it's important to strengthen women and girls, but at the same time, I'm sure that you have met some problems on the road. So I would like to, if you could develop, if has any gender inequality, such as discriminatory cultural norms, acted as obstacles for you yourself as an entrepreneur, but also for the growth of your company? And if you had such problems, how did you conquer them? Thank you.
Thank you. I think firstly, I would answer that there is no problem with our gender balance in Samoa, the way we do work in the community. The organization is called Women in Business Development because in 1991, when the organization was set up, we only started with women. And as we go along, we kind of changed our approach. We focus on working with families because we see that if we do support one gender, it won't work, basically, for us in Samoa, because you need the support of the men to come in and the children to be all part of that. You remove the women from the role of, possibly the income the breadwinner of the family, it's going to impact that family. And if you remove the husband's role, it's going to impact the family as well. So the way we do things, with our organization, we have a gender balance of we've got 45% of women in the overall organization and 55% men. So I hope I've answered that question.
Thank you. Now let me turn to you, Axel, for your comments and reflections.
Thank you. Thank you, Alberta, for your convincing presentation, inspiring also. When we think about the SDGs and the vision that we have all together, this is typically the type of project that we want to see almost everywhere in the world. It ticks many boxes in terms of sustainability, in terms of job creation, gender, etc. Yes, it's really inspiring, and it brings many ideas to the fore. I have one question on, you talked quite a lot about the EU market, which is something pleasant to my ears, of course, but at the same time, this is a long distance traveling for your products. It's also a market which is not necessarily close culturally to what your communities are used to doing. Climate change is also a factor. We all in this room are probably in favor of regional trade as much as possible as a priority matter. So how do you see that? You were talking about new markets. What about the regional market, including, of course, the Pacific region and Australia? Thank you.
Thank you. That's an interesting point, basically because in Samoa, we do trade very closely with New Zealand and Australia. But in terms of the Pacific region, I'm not too sure, but we all grow similar products. We process the same products. So in saying that, I suppose the most important market for us is looking towards New Zealand, Australia, and the rest of the world. At the moment, we also have inquiries from the US. But again, thank you to the Body Shop, because without the Body Shop, Women in Business wouldn't be where it is right now in terms of recognition. But having that recognition has enabled us to tap into other markets.
Thank you. And so, I mean, actually turning to you, Heather, last is very interesting, because you obviously know the organisation very well, and the Body Shop has made such a long, history of supporting small farm holders. I'd be really curious to hear your views on actually what enables an organisation like this to get to the next stage from the Body Shop's perspective. What should they be doing?
So, hello, thank you, Alberta, well done. So I'm going to probably be a bit harder on you just because I want to avoid the appearance of bias, because we have been working with WIBD for so long. So the Body Shop has been trading with WIBD for 10 years now. It's 10 years this year. And definitely on the positive side, I'll start with the good stuff. We've been extremely happy with WIBD's development as a trade partner, and also with the quality, really with the quality of the ingredient we receive from them. They're obviously very concerned on the ground with maintaining the quality of the coconut oil, and it's a very high quality, organic certified, hand pressed, virgin, etc. It's one of a very rare, exceptional quality which our customers really appreciate, and it meets all of our quality standards. So just want to say that is very important to us as a buyer, and has been important to us for 10 years. So on the being tough, being a dragon part now, I have two questions for you really, and two hats. So if we're looking for $50,000 to invest, you mentioned scaling up as one of the bottlenecks, scaling up production, and that would be an area to spend this money on. Of course, as a buyer, we're always interested in, I would say in this case particularly, we are interested in scaling up and obtaining more coconut oil from WIBD. So my question as a buyer would be, okay, for $50,000 investment, how much more coconut oil can I get? And at what price, although perhaps we can't use this forum to discuss the price. But I would definitely, in a proposal, would be looking for numbers, or not just around workers, although obviously the workers and the community development aspect is interesting to us, but from a pure commercial point of view, we need more, what's the volume and what's the price? And then the second question, if I'm allowed to have a second one, is the other, you didn't talk so much about it, but I think the other challenge we face, not so much as a buyer, but as the Body Shop in our community trade program, we really want our producers in those to not just sell to the Body Shop. That might sound counterintuitive, but we push them quite a lot, and we have specific targets around diversification of their client base. Because it's quite a big risk, of course, when you have a single big international buyer, that if you sell your entire capacity to them, you're at risk of market if our demand changes, the organization is quite dependent on it. So my question, out of that $50,000, you mentioned you would do both scaling up production and market diversification activities. Can you be more specific about what kind of additional buyers you would be seeking and how you would attract them? Am I allowed two questions? Is that too hard?
You are allowed two questions, because I'm seeing an investment opportunity that might be realized here, absolutely.
Thank you, Heather. So going on to the first question, you asked about 50,000, with regards to that, I would say we would possibly look at a realistic figure of an increase in production by 20 tons in the first year. In terms of pricing, I would have to bargain, say, a drop of 7% in reduction of pricing, at the existing price that we actually sell it to. The second question, the level of buyers that we will actually be seeking, I'll be a little bit more specific. We will be looking at cosmetic, because that's the only way people will be able to afford buying the oil from the other side of the world, is through using value addition. So we're not expecting to sell our coconut oil to somebody who's going to use it as is, but to add value in their production line, just so they can be able to get some profit, and also to maximize the quality of the oil that we've supplied. I hope I've answered that second part of the question.
Thank you.
And thank you, Alberta. I'm feeling the need for a kind of conversation over lunch here. Annette, over to you. Thank you, Alberta, for that presentation. Can we all just have a big round of applause?
Clearly, the judges are pleased with the pitch, and we seem to hear an investment opportunity from the Body Shop to increase their cooperation with WIBD. So join me in thanking Alberta for her presentation. And so from Samoa, a country deep in the Pacific, we are going to cross to Asia. We're going to cross to Asia, and I have the honor of inviting Damchi Den. Damchi is coming from Bhutan, and she's the president of the Bhutan Association of Women Entrepreneurs, BOE. And BOE works with both rural and capital-based women to empower them financially in multiple ways, including through microcredit institutions. So, Damchi, welcome and present your pitch.
Okay. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. as I must repeat again that I'm Tamche Dem. Okay. From Bhutan. An entrepreneur and maker of homemade potato chips that I sold to augment the income of my late civil servant husband in bringing up our 4 sons. I pioneered construction steel manufacturing in Bhutan, and my company, Peldon Enterprise Limited, manufactures ferrosilicon, besides being in the reinsurance business. While Peldon puts food on the table, it is Bhutan Association of Women Entrepreneurs, an NGO I founded in 2010, that drives my passion and is my way of giving back to society in humble gratitude. Slide 2. Okay. I believe that poverty is a result of a mismatch between opportunity and potential. Bhutan is geo-economically situated between China and India. We have pristine environment and are, I believe, the only carbon-negative country on Earth. We have fresh water, fertile soils, yet we are unable to make our mark in the food world. Some of the challenges we face: the high cost of labor, underutilized small land holdings, low and uneconomical volumes of produce, undocumented women-specific data resulting in poor planning and networking, many men leaving their homes in search of work in cities, leaving women struggling to cope. The mountainous terrain makes it difficult to mechanize labor and build necessary infrastructure. Lack of exposure, financial literacy results in poor self-confidence. Climate change and its devastating impact are some of the challenges we face. Next. Before we even get to international exports and trade negotiations at the WTO, we need to have the capacity and volumes to meet market demands in our own country. I am confident the Urban Village Project will provide the opportunity for Bhutan to effectively address the challenges we face. It will be situated in the capital city, Thimphu, where 108 youth, of which 70% women, will be enrolled annually, living in an environment of loving kindness and harmony. Students will engage in an earn-while-you-learn system, mindful of themselves and the impact on the world around them. The 2-year course is designed to turn them into confident entrepreneurs or skilled job seekers. The first year is divided into 2 6-month periods, with the first 6 months providing a broad overview of 4 sectors, which are agriculture, tourism, construction, and recycling. The second 6 months, developing skills in their chosen specialization. The second-year students will engage with farmers, businesses, and entrepreneurs, earning while they learn through an apprenticeship program. Next. Okay. Bawi's small but efficient team of committed youth have a proven track record of effectively implementing projects to empower women, children, and the poor, gaining their trust and confidence. We predominantly work with women, now numbering in their thousands, building capacity, providing them space where they gather, supporting each other, both physically and psychologically, building friendships, solidarity, and networking. This has had a profound impact on not only the women, but also their children, who are proud and appreciative of their parents. Slide 5. Okay. Okay. So now we come to your part of the story. The most important part, and that is funding. There is huge potential in organic foods. As incomes grow, people become more health conscious. Bawi will encourage our members to grow ginger, turmeric, buckwheat, and mushrooms, along with herbs and dyes, for their export potential, aligning with government target crops, contributing to building brand Bhutan. We are looking for, please hold your breath, we're looking for €7 million in total to set up the school. The good news is 3 million is already secured through contributions from the government of Bhutan, taking care of stipends, food, etc. The remaining €4 million will be a single down payment used to build infrastructure. Bhutan is a great country to pilot and any project because we are small and our track record shows our level of commitment and implementation. We believe this is a very attractive proposition, particularly for those with interest in education, women, and youth. In fact, someone commented on how this project touches all the SDGs. And I'm hoping that you can see its potential. Your one-time investment will not only ensure the annual graduation of 108 empowered youth, but will also help supporting women across my country. In conclusion, I would like to thank EIF, Dr. Ratnakar Adhikari in particular, and your team. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to be here in this very important forum. And I would also like to thank our development partners, ADB, Japan Fund for Poverty Reduction, World Bank, Building Regional Women Marketing Linkages, ICIMOD, Canadian Fund for Livelihood, and the Government of India. And my best wishes and prayers for our collective happiness. Thank you very much. I almost walked off. Sorry.
Thank you so much. Can you just press your... That's great. Well, you know, yesterday we spoke about the challenge of skilling our youth for the future. If we haven't got that investment into political capital, into the skills, how are we going to be able to break into the global markets? And, you know, this is a fantastic response to that. And a great list of sponsors that you already have. I'm not seeing any of ours yet amongst that list. Let's see. Let me turn first to Andy for the United Kingdom government for your thoughts and reflections.
Thanks very much, and thanks, Den, for the presentation. I think one thing that all dragons, all investors look for is passion. And you talked very vividly about your passion for this project. It really came through, and I think is something that will stand you in good stead as you approach the investors on the panel and more broadly. You talked a little bit about the investment in the school, building the school, putting in the infrastructure. Could you tell me a little bit about the sort of running costs? Because clearly, most of the costs come at the beginning. But what comes after that? How is the sort of ongoing project funded? Is it funded through the people that the entrepreneurs will go and work for? Tell me a little bit about the sort of sustainability in that regard. Thanks.
Oh, sorry. The recurring cost is in line with the government programs, you know, building livelihoods and also, you know, engaging our youth in a lot of activities, different activities. Besides that, and which is more interesting and exciting, is that we have built the capacity for entrepreneurs to build businesses. And these youth that have come out, they are actually beginning as apprentices. But when they graduate, they are graduating as entrepreneurs who have had exposure for 1 year, and the next one is they have earned while they learn, so they know their trade. And then what is at the end of the line is that the government also has this user rights land, you know, sort of a program where youth get the opportunity to, you know, to grow crops, or, you know, that is, I mean, it's very exciting times we're moving on in Bhutan, actually. Thank you for the question.
Thank you. Can you just turn? Great. Brilliant, thank you. Let me turn now to Kerstin from Sweden.
Yeah, thank you very much for this very interesting presentation. And while you were talking, I was thinking about the gross national happiness as being one of the indicators, and I can see that I can now understand why there is gross national happiness in Bhutan with a very good perspectives on agriculture, with good soils and good climate and a good balance, carbon balance. However, I had a little, when you explain your business, it's you're building this school with different lines of education, but agriculture is one major line. And I was a bit wondering why actually do you think that it will be attractive for youth to go and work with agriculture? Since we have heard yesterday that youth and young people, they are not attracted to agriculture generally. And being a bit skeptical at the same time, I would like you to elaborate, if possible, on other skills that are needed. We are rapidly living in a world with evolving technology and digitalization, etc. Have you any opportunity to include any of these skills also in your training to prepare these young people to meet the challenges that they will meet in their development of entrepreneurship? Thank you. That was 2 questions, excuse me.
Thank you for the questions. And in fact, I feel so at ease being a person from the dragon country of Bhutan, amongst the dragons here. Well, thank you so much. Why do we look at agriculture? We're giving so much of focus on agriculture because we're an agricultural country. That is our base, you know. We have this beautiful, you know, fertile, pristine environment and the opportunity to convert agriculture, subsistence farming into, you know, to make it a commercial farming. Because look at our neighbors. We have organic food, and I think the world is craving for organic food. And when we're looking at, you know, we're not looking at taking our youth and putting them into subsistence farming. That's not what we're trying to do. We're trying to get them to go out there, first of all, as you know, as an apprentice, and later on as contract farmers. And you know, at their disposal is technology. You know, there's a lot of mechanization that they can do because the volumes grow through aggregation. When they go in there, they go in there as small landholdings farmers, then yes, it doesn't make sense. But when they go in as aggregating their products, the volumes are built up, and the market reach is much bigger. So for agriculture, I hope this does touch on that. And then the second one you were talking about is very much entrenched in this school. It is absolutely entrenched. It is in fact one of the pillars that is going to ensure that our youth, when they come out, will have a wholesome education in, you know, in marketing, in finance, besides general well-being. So this is very, very much a part of our, you know, of our plans. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me turn to you, Axel, European Commission, big supporter of big projects like this.
With pleasure. I liked particularly the mix of technical skills that would be acquired by the youth, directly related to markets, and also what you said about a welcoming environment and the idea to bring up well-rounded persons. And this is possibly very reflective of the culture in Bhutan, but this is also a concept of vocational training or training as such, which I think makes a lot of sense. I was interested by the long list of public donors, including government, actually, behind the project. And I was wondering, okay, this is really related to turning young people tuned to the market. Why don't we have more private companies backing the project financially? And I think it's very important also in terms of medium-term sustainability, because public donors are important, especially at the start of the project, but how long will they stay? Thank you.
Thank you for the question. And before I carry on, I must say that the EU is one of our, you know, very generous development partners for my country. But however, for Bawi, we are still waiting to experience your generosity. So, you know, well, You're talking about private sector intervention, and I think that's very important. A part of our, the plan, involves livelihood centers. And those livelihood centers are actually run by entrepreneurs who, take as apprentices, interns, these youth. So it is very entrenched. Private sector participation is very entrenched. The only thing is that we are very choosy about the private sector that we allow into this. We want private sector who believe in, sort of the fountain effect. That is a word that I coined because I couldn't find of anything else to name it. But it is it is something that makes you want to share. While you earn, you share with others. We're not saying that you give for charity, but you also learn to give back. That's how, it's a wholesome life. That's how I believe. That is the basis of happiness, being able to share. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, The Body Shop, a company that is all about organic, community, wholesome. Heather, what are your thoughts?
Very interesting, and I would say The Body Shop is also a company about happiness, loving kindness, harmony, and beauty. So, I mean, there's very interesting resonance in terms of the what Bhutan represents to buyers in the other parts of the world, but in that sort of spirit, the spirit that you're presenting here, I think we can really connect to. But building on Axel's question, Ms. Den, I think the lack, for me, sitting here from a private sector perspective, I look at this proposal as I'm seeing it now, and there might be more details I don't know about, and think, oh, this is a donor project. This is a step before trade, because it's what I'm sitting here thinking as a buyer is, what can I buy? The original name of the community trade program was actually Trade Not Aid. So it really is about driving benefit, but through commerce. So the slide I'm most interested in is the one that lists the products. And then immediately I have this, okay, well, ginger. Okay, can we buy ginger? How much ginger is it? What form does it come in? What is the price of the ginger? How does it get to the UK? How does it get to our factories? What's the supply chain? So I have a list of commercial questions in my head about what can we purchase. And those are the kind of details that I would be seeking. So I guess my more general question, of course you can't answer those details right now, is it seems like the 2-year funding is to produce students. So you graduate 108 students. Is there any products that a buyer could buy that would be a return on a private sector investment after that 2-year period? Or is it later? It might come down the road.
In my enthusiasm to get up on stage, I forgot my product. Actually, it is not my personal product. It's the product of my country. That out there is bitter buckwheat. That is sort of the product that OGOP. That is it is a very important marketing outlet that is showcasing the Bhutanese products. It's very important for us to understand. You will see the products there. That is bitter buckwheat. Amongst others, there are plenty of products. But I just picked up these two. One is bitter buckwheat, and the other is cordyceps. Cordyceps is exotic mushroom. In fact, some even think it is natural Viagra. I'm not sure, but that's what I've been told, But this is an amazing product, and I don't think you get that in many other countries. I don't think you get it in any other countries, in fact. So this is something. And that is wine. That is wine. That is the cordyceps in wine. I don't think the ladies will like it too much, I can see. But, well, this has got fantastic potential. That much I can tell you. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. Bhutan has plenty, plenty, plenty. I mean, we can't even imagine what we're going to. But coming back to your question. Is, these livelihood centers, are the outlet for our farmers' products. Just now, what's happening, our farmers are growing produce, first of all, in such small volumes. It's not getting anywhere. But when we have these livelihood centers that act as outlets, their production increases. And thereby, we will be able to look for value addition, sustainable market chains. This is what we are looking for. And besides the buckwheat, besides the cordyceps that we have there, and besides the mushrooms, what are the other things we have? We have, and I think Body Shop might be interested in this, because you all are kind to animals. You all are kind to animals, and this is what touches me. You know, I am a fan of yours, by the way, Body Shop.
And I think I'm going to leave you right there on that note.
Okay. No, honestly.
I think we have a number of conversations now that need to happen over lunch. Can you just turn your one off for me? Yeah. I mean, this has taken us in directions I could never have imagined to start with, but been fascinating. Thank you so much. Can we have a big round of applause?
Oh, thank you. So from a $50,000 requirement for coconut oil production in Samoa to a €4 million investment in an apprentice program in Bhutan. Who do we have next? We're moving all the way, and I think the competition for the scarce resources from the investors is getting stiffer. We'll now fly to Africa. And I have the honor to invite Betty Chinyamnyam. She's the CEO of the National Association of Smallholder Farmers in Malawi. And NASFAM is the largest farmers association, working with their networks to support cultivation and processing and working towards government's national export strategy. Betty, you're welcome.
Good morning. As per the introduction, I work with the National Smallholder Farmers Association of Malawi, NASFAM, and this is the largest farm organization in the country with a registered membership of 130,000 smallholder farmers, 58% of whom are women. We work with the farmers to help them improve their, We work with the farmers to help them improve their production capacity so they can access better and more rewarding markets. We employ about 400 members of staff and many more seasonal workers, and our members produce crops worth over $5 million. Most of that is sold locally and maybe just across the borders. Our story is one of transforming participating smallholder farmers from being project beneficiaries to entrepreneurs and agents of change. Over the past few years, and with support from the EIF, we have been implementing an innovative Aid for Trade project, the Anchor Farm Model Project. I won't give details now because of time, but just to say that the project has made significant impact in addressing supply-side constraints. In just 3 years, we have managed to more than double groundnut yields, to reduce post-harvest losses, to improve quality of the groundnuts, and being able to export the nuts to other countries within the region, specifically to Zambia and Botswana. Overall, during this period, farmer incomes have increased threefold. Having achieved these results, we are now ready to use the Anchor Farm model for greater engagement in global trade. Specifically, we are targeting the groundnut market in Europe, and we know that this is a big and growing market with annual imports into the region valued at just over 1.1 billion euro. Firstly, we are looking at re-engaging with the European fair trade market. Malawi used to supply fair trade nuts into the UK's Tesco's and Sainsbury, and I have samples here of the products that we used to do. But this stopped due to the supply-side constraints that I just mentioned above, and that the EIF project has made good progress in addressing. The fair trade market in Europe, as we probably all know, is also growing. And just the UK alone is selling over 4.5 fair trade products in their supermarkets. The main advantage of fair trade for us is that it brings stable prices compared to conventional products that suffer high price volatility depending on demand and supply. Secondly, we are also looking at introducing organic exports into the same region. Traditionally in Malawi, groundnuts are grown without chemicals and should qualify for organic certification. However, this has been difficult before the EIF Anchor Farm project. So we are therefore looking forward to taking advantage of the gains made with the EIF project to introduce organic certification of Malawian groundnuts. And lastly, apart from targeting the European market, we are also looking at increasing intra-region trade of peanut butter and other value-added products and not just raw commodities. At the moment, this raw nuts is what is sold to other countries within the region. But we're looking at value adding into peanut butter, oil, and others. All this would be possible with annual funding of 700,000 euros for 3 years to support such areas as training, equipment, crop financing, product development, quality management systems, and certification. We believe that the Anchor Farm model is a value for money project that has multiple benefits for all involved parties. For the farmer, it would deliver higher output as well as higher incomes. And because we work with farmers in groups, we can reach to many farmers in a single intervention. It will also build the business capacity of the farmers for sustainability. For the community, through fair trade, it will contribute to improved social services through the projects that are funded by fair trade premiums. For the consumer, it will provide good quality peanuts. For the investor, it's value for money in terms of the impact made. And for the economy, for the Malawi economy, increased job creation as well as forex generation. Therefore, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I present to you this morning the Anchor Farm project, a project that has a good, solid foundation and is now ready to take off for greater heights. Thank you.
Thank you, Betty. Can you just press your button for me? Brilliant. Thank you so much. I mean, this is sort of a fascinating project, I think, from my perspective. You've got markets that have been tested where your products have been purchased, but then your supply side constraints have meant that you haven't been able to continue to meet that demand. And you didn't mention, but I think the audience will know that Malawi has really struggled with some of the effects of climate change on your agriculture, and that's been a huge challenge to the country. So I think, you know, a huge opportunity here. You're bigger than just a cooperative. You're already enormous. And if someone can hold up some of these products, because we've got, maybe if the dragons can put their products on the table there, if we've got some of them, people can see them as well. But there's a range of products that I recognize from supermarkets in the UK. So let me turn straight away to you, Andy, for your thoughts and reflections on this project.
Wonderful, thank you, and thank you, Betty, for the presentation. I think, you know, one of the tests in the Dragon's Den is always, do consumers love the product? Because if consumers don't love the product, then you're probably heading in the wrong direction. And I think what you've set out today and some of the products we've seen really show that actually there is a market there. And perhaps in future we should get some of the British supermarkets along to come and hear these pitches for themselves. My question, if I may, is a little bit about the sort of the growing process, because of course one of the biggest or most challenging periods in any enterprise's life is that expansion period as you grow. Can you tell us a little bit about the risks of that expansion, how you intend managing the growth? Because clearly, as an investor, you know, scale is important. You know, growing quickly, but in a way that is manageable is key to have real impact. So your thoughts, please, on that scaling up process. Thanks.
Thank you very much for a very good question. Like I mentioned, we work with farmers in groups, and when we start working with the farmers, we take time to do capacity building, to understand the business, to understand markets, before we can actually get them to start supplying. So at the moment, the pool of farmers that could be involved in the project is above 300,000, but we are only working with 130,000 farmers. So we have capacity to expand, to even double the number of farmers that we're working with. So I would say that we are on course. That risk is really not there at the moment. I think it's more of a potential as opposed to a risk, if you may allow it.
Thank you. And before I go to Kerstin, I just want to let you all know that you've got some of these cards on your tables. So if you wanted to make any comments and you just put Samoa, Bhutan, Malawi, we'll make sure that all of our entrepreneurs get your comments and reflections on their projects as well, because I think there's such a richness here that I'm sure lots of you have questions and thoughts and ideas. So please take your time just to jot them down on these cards, and then we'll collect them and make sure that our entrepreneurs get those. Let me turn now to you, Kerstin, for your thoughts and comments.
Okay, thank you very much. A fascinating presentation and program, and I do not recognize your products, but I can understand that they are already well known. And being from Sweden, from the country where we have a feminist foreign policy, I would like to discuss more about you on the gender balance in your program and the obstacles, but we will have to do that over the coffee break because the time is running out. What I want to ask you about is actually, you're talking about the fair trade market and the fair trade as being the market for your products, more or less, which is a rather narrow niche in some way. And I would want to hear more about what you have in your business plan for, in order to or in perspective of value addition to your products, in addition to peanut butter, which is rather a first step, but what do you include to increase your values and step up on the value chain? Thank you.
Thank you very much for that question. I did explain that we have different markets. So we've got the national market, where we supply raw nuts, which are used for different purposes. We also do groundnut flour, which again is widely used in Malawi, as well as in other countries within the region. But the fair trade and organic, we think that is the next step, because we have found that even though it's a smaller market, the rewards are bigger. And certainly when you look at volatility, one of the key issues that discourages farmers is when a price is high one season and very low the other season. But with fair trade, our experience was that the price was quite even. So that helped farmers to plan. That gave farmers comfort that this is a product that will give them future. So I think that there's room for all the different things. There's room for the national market. There's room for value-added products. There's also room for accessing those niche markets. And that is what would make a business proposal actually more sustainable, in that it is not only dependent on one avenue. Thank you.
Thank you. And just in case anyone is worried about coffee, I've taken the executive decision from here that we're going to start the next session at 11, because I'm not going to give our entrepreneurs any less opportunity one than the other. So, so we will still have a coffee break, but we'll finish this session when we finish, and we'll start our next sessions at 11 in each of the parallel rooms. Over to you, Axel.
Thank you. From an outside perspective, the positioning of your project is very interesting. Agriculture, very important for Malawi, for the economy of Malawi, and accompanying youth, women, in terms of training, in terms of marketing, is certainly bang on target. I have a question on the financial model, which I believe is key to the scaling up that you are looking at. What is the type of financial contributions you get from members? What kind of support do you get from the financial sector in terms of loans? And what type of partnership are you seeking with the private sector in general, private sector companies, in terms of partnering with you, not only on the content of the programs, but also in financial terms. Thank you.
Thank you very much. In terms of financial contributions from our members, recognizing that most of these are poor smallholder farmers, we still ask that they pay a membership fee just to show commitment so that they understand that this is not just any other project where they'll get freebies, but it's a project where they will contribute but get much more value for their contribution. So in this case, they pay very, very little, 50 cents per year, but that is the value of their commitment. Other than that, we also work with the financial sector. At the moment, in order to trade, we borrow from local banks in Malawi. And we suffer very high interest rates of anything from 35 to 45%. So I always say that if you can run a successful business at those interest rates, you must be very good. So I believe that's what we are. We have had to survive with very high interest rates. We are also looking at partnerships. At the moment, we have 2 partnerships that I would like to mention. First of all, in Malawi, we have partnered with other commercial sector to come up with a company which we're calling Afri Oils. So we've invested in this company that in order to increase our capacity to process. So the processing that I mentioned, the value addition, would be done in partnership with this company. Secondly, when we're doing fair trade, it wasn't NASFAM alone. We were partnering with other producers in Latin America and Asia. If you may, you can look up Liberation Nuts. We were selling under that brand, and that is a partnership of Malawian smallholder farmers producing peanuts and producers from Latin America doing Brazil nuts and cashews, as well as Kerala in India, who are also bringing in peanuts. So we believe that this is a period for partnership. With partnership, we all achieve more. And for any investor, like I mentioned, if you invest in this project, you're not only dealing or helping Malawian farmers, you are, by extension, also helping those other farmers from Latin America, from Asia. So that is a long answer to your question. Thank you.
That's fantastic. Thank you, Betty. And we all know that donors always want more than one bang for their buck. So looks like you're able to give that in spades. Let me go over to you, Heather, for your final comments and questions.
Great. I'll be brief since I'm standing between us and coffee. First of all, thank you. It was very interesting to hear about this project. And I think the things that stand out to me, although the Body Shop doesn't buy peanut products or specifically, but in more general terms, the scale that you're operating at, the fact that you're clearly organized at scale would be a very encouraging thing if you're coming from an international buyer perspective, that you have awareness and development both in national, regional, and international markets is also a strength that very much is coming out at me. The thing that would also jump out at me as an international buyer, and sort of putting on a Tesco Sainsbury's hat, if I can imagine that anyway, is security of supply. If there has been a trade failure in the past, my immediate worry as a buyer is, okay, is there going to be another trade failure? What are you've said this project you've been working on for a few years has addressed the root causes of those previous failures. We'd have to be very convinced from a buying perspective that they were addressed for the long term, and particularly the one that flags out to me that is partially not under your control is climate change. So if Malawi is now a climate change risk area for production of peanuts in general, then I would have to be looking at things, okay, is the agriculture that you're doing now climate smart? Are the farmers irrigated? Smallholder farmers in Malawi are probably rain-fed. I mean, just questions like that, you would be trying to reassure yourself as a buyer that if we reset up the supply chain, it's going to stay. And I think the other, related to that line of thought, would also be a market analysis. So I heard a lot about in this proposal that you've put forward in the presentation about production, supply, not a lot about demand analysis at an international level. So Tesco's and Sainsbury's and those other buyers will have sourced peanuts elsewhere. So in the meantime, so it's the question is there still a market opportunity, and what is that market opportunity? So a current analysis of international demand would be quite, I think, quite relevant in terms of reinvesting on the supply side. So those are more comments than questions, but please feel free to respond.
Thank you very much. I'll try to be brief. On the question of consistency of supply, that's exactly one of the things that we're looking at. And the project, the financing that we're looking for now includes irrigation support. And irrigation not only to supplement the normal rain-fed crop, but to be able to do 2 or 3 crops in a season, in a year. Secondly, also just to mention that this is a model that can be applied to any commodity. So we could do lemongrass, which we have done before, to get essential oil. So there's still room to talk to Body Shop. I think don't just think we're just about peanuts. We can do any other product as well, as long as the demand is there. And lastly, on whether the market has moved on, no, because the Malawi nuts are unique in that we are one of the few suppliers of jumbo nuts. So if you look at the nuts that you buy now, they're usually very small. But the nuts that you get from Malawi are big. So when I circulated that packet, I think I've got it here, you see that it's the size. It's called jumbo nuts, and that's what Malawi is well known for. So yeah, that market is still waiting for us, and we are just waiting to catch up. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Betty, for everything. That's great. Brilliant. So that ends our presentations from our 3 entrepreneurs, and thank you to our dragons. I think they deserve a round of applause as well for their questions. I mean, what a fascinating discussion. You know, 3 fantastic entrepreneurs with 3 really amazing ideas, all having thought through the business model, the challenges, the opportunities. But now it's over to you, the audience, for a show of hands about who you think was the winner in this. Now, I'm wondering whether this is going to be a little bit like Eurovision, and I don't know whether any of you watch Eurovision. It's a bit of a thing for us. We always lose. Nil point, United Kingdom. And we're going to find ourselves with some block voting. I have a feeling it might happen like that. But let's have a show of hands we have Samoa, who is our coconut producer. We have Bhutan, who is developing skills for youth and women. And we have Malawi, peanut production and processing. So who thinks that Samoa was our winner? Okay. That's quite a few. Who thinks Bhutan? Okay, Bhutan. And who thinks Malawi? I knew we were going to have block voting from Africa. I knew it. I might discount that. Malawi, I think you were the winner here. Congratulations. Well done, Betty. So, as I mentioned earlier, let's still have our coffee break. We have time to catch up in our next session. We will reconvene at 11 o'clock. We have 2 sessions that are happening next. One is focused on trade in Africa, that is in here. The other is focused on the Asia-Pacific region, which is in room S3. Please continue these conversations. Our entrepreneurs are waiting for you. And I'll speak to you all later.